I was the long-lost heir to the Vance fortune, and for 20 years, I'd been living on my own. My birth parents finally tracked me down. They pulled up in a Rolls-Royce, crying, begging me to come home and take over the family empire. I told them no. I'm a total screw-up. You got the wrong guy. The other guy, the one who'd been living my life, just smirked from the sidelines, calling me a lost cause. To prove what a disaster I was, I pointed to a crypto coin on my phone that was basically flatlining. See this? My entire life savings. I YOLO'd it all on this piece of garbage. I'll be taking a flying leap off the Golden Gate Bridge by morning. The next day, Elon Musk tweeted about that exact coin. It shot up 1,000,000% in seconds. My entire family went silent. The way they looked at me was a mixture of awe and pure terror. No, seriously guys, let me explain. Ethan, please come home with us. The elegant woman in front of me, Eleanor Vance, dabbed at the corner of her eye with a silk handkerchief. Her perfectly preserved face was a mask of guilt. Standing next to her was my biological father, Jonathan Vance, a man whose presence alone seemed to suck the oxygen out of a room. Behind him stood a younger guy in a designer suit, looking slick and smug. That was Caleb Vance, the cuckoo who'd been warming my nest for 2 decades. Right now, he was sizing me up like a piece of cheap furniture, a faint, mocking smile on his lips. Me, Ethan, the real Vance heir, swapped at birth in a hospital 20 years ago, had finally been found. But I wasn't exactly popping champagne. I glanced around my cramped, 500-square-foot studio apartment, then at the car parked outside that was probably worth more than the entire building. I sighed. Sir, ma'am, I think there's been a mistake. I pushed my half-eaten cup of ramen aside, my expression as earnest as I could make it. I'm doing just fine. Being a regular guy is comfortable. The whole high society thing, I wouldn't fit in, and I meant it. Waking up whenever I want, playing video games, eating instant noodles. Wasn't this slacker life the dream? Why would I want to go to Vance Holdings and spend my days navigating corporate backstabbing? Exhausting. Eleanor's eyes welled up again. My boy, it's our fault. We let you suffer out here all alone. I'm not suffering, I said, waving my hands frantically. I make $3,000 a month. Life is good. 3,000. Jonathan's jaw twitched. Behind him, Caleb finally let out a snort of derision. Mom, Dad, what did I tell you? He's gone feral. Thinks 3,000 a month is living the dream. You can't make a silk purse out of sow's ear. He looked at me like I was a cockroach he'd found in a dumpster. Caleb, is that any way to talk to your brother? Jonathan muttered, but there was no real heat behind it. I grinned to myself. Yes, exactly. Keep thinking I'm a worthless bum and get the hell out of here. I decided to add a little more fuel to the fire. Brother? Don't think so. I slumped back on my sofa, crossed my legs, and put on my most obnoxious, carefree expression. I'm not into the usual vices, but I do have one little hobby. I like to invest. I picked up my phone, swiped a few times, and opened a trading app. See this? I shoved the screen in their faces. It showed a chart that was a sickening shade of green, nosediving so hard it was almost at zero. It's called Derp Coin. Sounds promising, right? I took the 50 grand I'd saved up from odd jobs, maxed out all my credit cards, and went all in. I pointed at the minus 99.99% figure, my voice thick with fake despair. And now, this is all that's left. I'll probably be lining up for a spot on a bridge tomorrow. So, you see, finding me is pointless. I'm a bona fide, certified loser. A financial black hole. You should stick with the son you've raised for 20 years as your heir. I glanced at Caleb. I finished my speech and looked at them triumphantly. That should do it, right? A lazy, stupid, delusional waste of space. Who would want that? The room went dead silent. Eleanor's tears stopped. Jonathan's brow furrowed as he stared intently at my phone screen. The smirk on Caleb's face froze. He leaned in for a closer look, then burst out laughing, louder this time. Derp coin? Ha ha. Did I hear that right? You invested your life savings in a meme coin that screams scam from a mile away? You're not just dumb, you're clinically insane. But Jonathan pushed him aside, pulled a pair of reading glasses from his pocket, and meticulously examined the coin's logo. His expression shifted from serious to confused to utterly shocked. Finally, he looked up at me, his eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't comprehend. His voice trembled. Ethan, you bought this on purpose, didn't you? Jonathan's question threw me for a loop. On purpose? What do you mean? I thought I practically tattooed. I'm an idiot on my forehead. Dad, don't let him fool you. He's just a moron. Caleb was practically jumping up and down. That coin is garbage. Not even a dog would buy it. Jonathan ignored him, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. Son, be honest with me. You were testing us, weren't you? Testing their tolerance for stupidity? I stared at him, bewildered. Sir, I honestly don't know what you're talking about. I'm just dumb. I made a bad investment, and I'm about to go broke. You should really leave before my creditors show up and you get caught in the crossfire. I tried to pull my arm away, but he held on tighter. No, you're not. Jonathan's tone was absolute. This derp coin, despite its ridiculous name, is built on the most advanced anonymous protocol currently in existence. It's just been ignored by the market because of the name and a complete lack of marketing. He took a deep breath, his eyes burning into mine. You didn't choose it by accident. This was your way of telling us that you have the vision to see a diamond in the rough, but you have too much integrity to flaunt it for worldly approval. My jaw dropped. Wait, dude, your ability to jump to conclusions is Olympic level. I just thought the name was hilarious and threw $100 at it for a laugh. The 50 grand was a complete fabrication. Furthermore, Jonathan continued his analysis. You deliberately claimed you lost everything and were about to jump off a bridge. You were testing our character to see if we only cared about results or if we cared about you. If we had rejected you for this failed investment, you would have cut ties with us for good. But because we didn't care about your failure and still wanted you back, you are now willing to truly accept us. He got more and more emotional as he spoke, his eyes turning red. My boy, you've been through so much. It's our fault. We passed your test. From this day forward, everything the Vance family has is yours. No one can take it away. I was completely stunned. What is even happening right now? I just wanted you people to leave me alone. Dad, are you crazy? Caleb shrieked. He got lucky, that's all. A blind squirrel found a nut. You can't give him the company. Eleanor, catching on, threw her arms around me, sobbing dramatically. Oh, my son, why are you so hard on yourself? You could have just told us how you felt. Why did you have to torture yourself and us like this? She was squeezing me so hard I could barely breathe. Ma'am, I'm really just a loser. My protests, to their ears, sounded like humble denials born from years of hardship. Enough. Not another word, Jonathan declared, his voice final. Ethan, you don't have to explain anything. Your father understands. He pulled a black credit card from his wallet and pressed it into my hand. There's not much on here, just a little something to get you started. The PIN is 6/8. As of today, you are the sole heir to Vance Holdings. Caleb's face went chalk white. He stared at me, his eyes burning with a venomous mix of hatred and disbelief. I clutched the cold, plastic card, which felt hotter than the ramen I'd just been eating. How did things get so out of control? I just wanted to be a couch potato. Just then, my phone began vibrating uncontrollably. A news alert popped up on the screen. Tech billionaire Elon Musk just posted a new tweet. I love Derpcoin, with a picture of a cute, goofy-looking dog. In the next second, the notification chimes from my trading app started going off like a slot machine hitting the jackpot. I looked down. The chart for Derpcoin, once a pathetic green line pointing to hell, was now a vertical rocket aimed at the moon. +1,000%, +5,000%, +100,000%. In the span of a few seconds, my $100 joke investment had turned into a number with more zeros than I could count. The apartment was deathly quiet. The only sound was the incessant ding-ding-ding of my phone, providing a surreal soundtrack to this absurd drama. Caleb's eyes looked like they were about to pop out of his head. He pointed a trembling finger at my phone, his lips moving but no words coming out. That's impossible. Eleanor covered her mouth, her face a picture of disbelief. And my dear father, Jonathan Vance, was looking at me with an expression that had moved beyond shock into something approaching religious reverence. He stammered, to see the future in a single grain of sand. You even anticipated Musk's tweet. I said nothing. Anticipated my ass. Last night, I was scrolling through TikTok, saw a funny video of a dog named Derp, searched for it on my trading app out of curiosity, and bought $100 worth for the meme. How was I supposed to know a billionaire would have a public meltdown today? A prodigy. An absolute prodigy. Jonathan muttered to himself. The heavens are smiling on the Vance family. Caleb, look at your brother. This is what greatness looks like. Silent but deadly. You need to learn from him. Caleb's face cycled through shades of white, green, and purple before settling on a deep, mottled red. He glared at me. It looked so intense I thought he might set me on fire. I knew, right then, that I had made a mortal enemy. But it wasn't my fault. I was being framed by the universe. Sir, this was seriously a fluke. I tried one last time. I swear it was a blind guess. You see, Jonathan pointed at me, turning excitedly to Eleanor. Look at this boy. Even now, he remains humble, hiding his genius from the world. What magnificent character. What poise. I gave up. I was tired. Think whatever you want. I just need some quiet. Ethan, let's go. Come home with us, Eleanor said, taking my hand. Her grip was 100 times warmer and more affectionate than before. This apartment is too small. It's not right for you. We've had a room ready for you for years. It's 100 times bigger than this place. I was half pushed, half escorted into the back of the Rolls-Royce. Caleb was relegated to the front passenger seat. I could see his contorted reflection in the rearview mirror. As the car pulled away smoothly, I watched my shabby apartment building recede into the distance. My life, much like this car, was now speeding in a direction I couldn't control. I was the heir to the Vance fortune, an heir who had been accidentally mythologized as an investment god, a chosen one, and all I ever wanted was for them to think I was a moron and leave me alone. This world had gone completely insane. I clutched the black card in one hand and stared at the string of numbers on my phone. I felt no joy, just a throbbing headache. With this money and this card, I was set for life. 10 lives, even. My dream of being a professional slacker. Shattered, ground into dust. There is no greater pain in life than being alive, having more money than you could ever spend, and being forced to inherit a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Who could possibly understand my suffering? The Vance estate was even more ridiculous than I'd imagined. It wasn't a house. It was a compound. Fountains, manicured lawns, and a line of uniformed staff who bowed in unison as I walked by. Welcome home, young master. The whole display was so over the top, I almost tripped over my own feet. I was seated at the head of a dining table, so long it could have doubled as a bowling alley, with more than a dozen dishes I couldn't even name laid out before me. Jonathan and Eleanor sat on either side, constantly putting food on my plate and fussing over me. Caleb was seated at the far end of the table, practically in another time zone, his face as black as burnt toast. I could barely stomach a single bite. Ethan, you've just come home. Take a few days to rest, get used to the place, Jonathan said calmly, sipping his soup. Next Monday, I'll take you to the office. We'll call a board meeting, introduce you to everyone. I choked on my soup. No, sir, I really can't, I said, waving my hands. I don't know the first thing about business. I'll just embarrass you. How could you? Eleanor said, gazing at me with adoration. You're a genius. They'll be lucky to have you. I shot a desperate look at Caleb. Bro, help me out here. Say something. Tell them I'm an idiot. Stop this train wreck. Caleb seemed to get my signal. He actually stood up. But the moment he opened his mouth, I knew I was screwed. Dad, Mom, I think Ethan has a point, Caleb said, his voice laced with a suppressed excitement. He just got back and knows nothing about our operations. Pushing him into the spotlight so suddenly could make it hard for him to earn the board's respect. He paused, a calculated smirk touching his lips. As it happens, our Elysium project with Croft Industries has hit a snag. That iron lady, Isabel Croft, is demanding a solution. Why don't we let Ethan handle it? Give him a chance to prove himself. There it was, his big move. I was ecstatic. I'd heard about Elysium. It was Vance Holdings' biggest investment of the year, stalled for months by a critical technical bottleneck. Croft Industries was the partner, and its CEO, Isabel Croft, was famous throughout the industry for being a ruthless ballbuster. Dumping this mess on me was a brilliant, vicious move on Caleb's part, and it was exactly what I wanted. Once I spectacularly screw this up, you'll all have to believe I'm a failure, right? That's absurd. Jonathan frowned, just as I'd hoped. You know how complex that project is, and how difficult Isabel can be. How can you ask your brother to do that? Dad, I have faith in my brother, Caleb said with an air of perfect sincerity. Anyone who could pick derp coin out of a sea of garbage has the kind of vision to see something we can't in the Elysium Project. He was putting me on a pedestal just so that he could watch me fall. I got it. Yes. Let me do it. I chimed in eagerly. I think I can handle it. Just give me a shot. Jonathan and Eleanor exchanged a hesitant look. Ethan, this isn't a game. Sir, ma'am, you have to trust me, I said, puffing out my chest with false confidence. It's just a little project. It's in the bag. If I can't do it, you can have my head. After I'd said all that, they couldn't really refuse. Finally, Jonathan sighed and nodded. All right, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just do your best. A triumphant smile finally broke across Caleb's face. He could already picture me being chewed out by Isabel Croft, humiliated in front of the board, and finally kicked out of the Vance family for good. And I could already picture my glorious return to a life of blissful laziness. We both looked toward the future, full of hope. The next day, a private car dropped me off at the Croft Industries headquarters. Caleb and the project team were already waiting in the lobby. He greeted me with a fake, toothy grin. Ethan, you made it. This is the CEO of Croft Industries, Isabel Croft. I followed his gaze. A woman in a crisp, white pantsuit stood before us, radiating an icy calm. Her features were so perfectly sculpted, she hardly looked real, and her eyes were sharp enough to cut glass. So this was Isabel Croft. Definitely not someone you wanted to mess with. Ms. Croft, a pleasure, I said, extending a hand and trying to look competent. Isabel merely glanced at it, making no move to shake. Her red lips parted, and her voice was as cold and hard as her stare. You're the long-lost Vance heir? Jonathan sent you to handle Elysium? Is this some kind of joke? The disdain, the contempt. It was perfect. I was practically glowing. Ms. Croft, my brother may have just returned, but his abilities are extraordinary, his vision unmatched, Caleb said, putting on a show of defending me. I'm confident he'll provide you with a satisfactory solution. Isabel let out a cold laugh and turned on her heel. The conference room. I'm giving you 10 minutes. We all followed her in. A massive screen displayed a 3D model of the Elysium Project, surrounded by dense columns of data and technical problems. I couldn't understand a single word of it. The project lead began his presentation, spitting out technical jargon that sounded like an ancient incantation. I was starting to doze off. I'd stayed up all night playing video games to celebrate my impending failure, and now I could barely keep my eyes open. So, the biggest issue right now is that the central support column can't bear the projected load. We've tried multiple solutions, and all of them have failed. When he finished, the room fell silent. All eyes turned to me. Isabel sat at the head of the table, arms crossed, watching me with a blank expression. Mr. Vance, your solution. Caleb was also staring, a gleam of malicious anticipation in his eyes. I yawned and rubbed my eyes. Solution? I didn't have one. My only solution was to get this over with so I could go home and take a nap. I stood up and walked over to the giant architectural model. It was pretty detailed. I pointed randomly at the thick central column in the middle of the model and mumbled, half asleep. This seems like a lot of trouble. Just, tear it down. Blow it up. Whatever. With that, I couldn't hold on any longer. I waved a dismissive hand. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. Then, as everyone stared at me, completely petrified, I walked out of the conference room. I needed to find somewhere to crash for a few minutes. I found an empty hallway, leaned against the wall, and was about to catch a quick nap. Suddenly, a commotion erupted from the conference room. An engineer burst out, scrambling and stumbling, his face pale and his voice shaking. Ms. Croft, it's an emergency. The geological survey team just sent an urgent report. Directly beneath the project site, they've detected a massive, previously undiscovered underground cavern. The entire structure is unstable. The experts say, forget the support column, the ground can't even handle the foundation pilings. The whole area could collapse at any moment. The only viable option is to immediately demolish the existing structure with explosives. Boom. It was as if a bomb had gone off in the conference room. Everyone was speechless. Isabel shot up from her chair. She stared in the direction I had just left, her beautiful eyes wide with a storm of shock. Caleb's jaw had hit the floor and showed no signs of coming back up. He stammered, How could he have known? No one could answer him. The only sound in the room was the collective, sharp intake of breath. By the time I finished my nap and strolled back into the conference room, the atmosphere was weird. Everyone was looking at me like I was some kind of wizard. Isabel was standing right in front of me, and for the first time, her icy expression had cracked, replaced by a complex mix of shock, confusion, and curiosity. Mr. Vance, she began, her voice surprisingly soft. How did you know about the cavern? I blinked. What cavern? What did I say earlier? Oh, right. I said to blow the thing up. I guessed, I said, having no other choice. You guessed. Isabel's perfect eyebrows knitted together. Yeah, I have a pretty strong gut feeling about these things. I started bullshitting. The second I saw that model, I got a bad vibe. Felt like it was hollow underneath, you know? Unstable. So, I just said the first thing that came to mind. It was an explanation so flimsy, even I didn't buy it. But to my astonishment, Isabel nodded. I see. Some of the world's greatest strategists do possess an intuition that transcends data. My apologies for misjudging. She believed me. Is this woman crazy too? Ethan, you're amazing. Caleb rushed over, grabbing my arm. He forced a smile that looked more like a pained grimace. You saved the company again. I'm so proud of you. His grip was so tight his nails were digging into my skin. I knew, right then, that he wanted to murder me. The Elysium project was immediately halted due to the geological instability. And I, Ethan Vance, had once again saved the day, averting a potential loss of billions for both Vance Holdings and Croft Industries. My reputation spread through both companies like wildfire. Everyone was saying the new Vance heir wasn't human. He was a god who could see the future. Walking through the hallways of Vance Holdings, employees would practically dive out of my way, bowing at 90-degree angles and holding their breath. My headache was getting worse. Proving I was a failure was becoming increasingly difficult. Caleb, meanwhile, had gone quiet for a few days. He wasn't bothering me anymore. I figured he was plotting something big, and I was right. That evening, Jonathan called me into his study. His expression was graver than I had ever seen it. He threw a file on the desk in front of me. Ethan, read this. I picked it up and my eyes widened. It was an internal investigation report on a leak of confidential corporate secrets. The report alleged that someone had leaked Vance Holdings' core strategic plan for the next quarter to a major competitor. And all the evidence pointed directly at me. There were sent items from my email account, security footage from my office, which I had never even set foot in, and even a garbled audio recording of me supposedly meeting with a corporate spy. The frame job was almost laughably obvious. Ethan, I can't believe you would do this. Caleb burst into the room, his face a mask of anguish. We're family. How could you sell us out for money? He was acting his heart out, one step away from falling to his knees and weeping. Jonathan and Eleanor sat on the sofa, their faces ashen, saying nothing. They just looked at me with expressions of profound disappointment and pain. I understood. This was Caleb's kill shot. Last time, he tested my competence. This time, he was attacking my character. If he could make the corporate spy charge stick, it wouldn't matter how much of a genius they thought I was. I'd be out of the family for good. This was it. This was perfect. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I looked at them, and instead of panicking, I let out a long, slow sigh of relief. You're right. I did it. I admitted it, my voice calm and steady. You. Jonathan slammed his hand on the desk, his whole body trembling with rage. Eleanor immediately burst into tears. A flicker of pure ecstasy flashed in Caleb's eyes. This was exactly what he wanted, a confession. Why? Jonathan's voice shook. What did we ever do to you? Why would you do this? No reason. I shrugged, putting on my best I don't give a damn attitude. Guess I was poor for too long. When I see that much money, my principles go out the window. I even managed a small smile. Besides, I never wanted to be your long-lost heir anyway. Kick me out. It's for the best. I'll take the money and go live my life. The words were designed to be as treasonous and heartless as possible. Caleb was so excited his face was flushed. He pointed at me and yelled at Jonathan, Dad, did you hear him? He admitted it. We can't have this traitor in our family. We should call the police. Send him to prison. Prison. That sounded fantastic. 3 meals a day, a roof over my head, and no work. It was the slacker paradise I'd always dreamed of. I looked at Jonathan expectantly. Do it. Call the cops. But Jonathan just stared at me, his chest heaving. There was no anger, no disappointment. His eyes were filled with a complex, inscrutable light. Just then, the study door flew open. The company's head of security rushed in, flanked by 2 tech specialists. Mr. Vance, we figured it out. We figured everything out. The security chief was sweating, holding a tablet in his hands. Figure what out? Caleb's stomach dropped. He had a very bad feeling about this. The truth about the corporate leak. The chief handed the tablet to Jonathan. We discovered that the core strategy that was leaked was a complete fabrication. It was a fake plan. What? Caleb cried out. This fake plan was filled with data traps and logical fallacies we planted in advance, the chief explained. And just half an hour ago, our main competitor, Apex Global, held an emergency press conference. They announced they were adopting our leaked strategy and investing billions to pivot their entire company. They fell for it. Eleanor gasped. Yes, ma'am. They're finished. Following that fake plan, Apex Global will be bankrupt from a broken supply chain and catastrophic market miscalculations within 3 months. The security chief's face was red with excitement. And this whole thing was a setup. A brilliant sting operation to smoke out the mole and cripple our biggest rival in one fell swoop. But who did this? Jonathan's voice was barely a whisper. The security chief looked at me, standing there completely baffled with pure adoration. It was Mr. Ethan. We traced the fake strategy back to Mr. Ethan's personal laptop. He intentionally left behind all that clumsy evidence to make the real mole believe the plan was genuine. And then he made himself the prime suspect to lull the enemy into a false sense of security. To use himself as bait, to risk being branded a traitor, all to pull off this incredible counterattack. What courage! What strategic genius! Mr. Vance, we have a legend in the family. The entire study fell utterly silent. Me? Caleb. I looked down at my hands. When did I do all that? How come I even know about it? The only thing I ever installed on that laptop was Steam. Caleb's face was no longer white. It was the color of ash. He collapsed to the floor with a thud. Jonathan slowly rose from the sofa. He walked over to me, and for a long moment, he just looked at me, a deep, penetrating gaze. Then, he raised his hand and slapped himself hard across the face. Ethan, it was my failure as a father to ever doubt you. Don't worry. From this day forward, if anyone dares to say a single bad word about you, I'll break their legs. His cold gaze drifted over to the whimpering pile on the floor that was Caleb. I was officially a legend, not just famous. I'd been deified. At Vance Holdings, my name was spoken in hushed, reverent tones. I was the master strategist who could win wars from 1,000 miles away. The untouchable genius who could topple empires with a single move. I was someone I didn't even recognize. The worst part was, my idiot friend Kevin heard about my legendary exploits and showed up at my door, literally hugging my legs and begging to be my disciple. He then appointed himself my chief strategy officer and spokesperson. My daily routine consisted of eating, sleeping, and playing video games. Kevin's daily routine consisted of following me around and interpreting my every mundane action as a stroke of unparalleled business genius. I ordered spicy takeout for lunch. Kevin immediately posted on LinkedIn, Ethan had Sichuan for lunch. This is a clear signal that he's preparing a hostile takeover of the entire restaurant industry. Food delivery services, cloud kitchens, fine dining. Prepare for a paradigm shift. The post was flooded with likes and comments from industry titans. Message received. Thank you for the insight, Mr. Vance. In the afternoon, I was playing a game and accidentally bought a useless, low-level axe. Kevin immediately broke it down in our private investment group chat. A symbolic move. Ethan is telling us that to succeed, we must be willing to burn the boats. This seemingly pointless acquisition is actually a declaration. He's cutting off all avenues of retreat, forcing himself to press forward to victory. A chorus of entrepreneurs chimed in. Understood. Thank you for the lesson, Master Vance. I was losing my mind. I felt like I was living in my own personal Truman Show, and I was the star clown. The only difference was nobody thought I was funny. They thought I was a god, and that was 100 times worse. Caleb was essentially under house arrest, and Jonathan had handed over full control of the family business to me. Of course, I wasn't controlling anything. He'd have documents delivered to my room every day, and I'd promptly use them as coasters for my ramen cups. But company profits were soaring. Everyone believed my hands-off approach was a form of Zen leadership, a test of their own abilities. They were all working like maniacs, terrified of being deemed unworthy by me. They're silent, all-seeing God Emperor. My dream of a simple, lazy life was now a distant, mocking memory. I felt a despair I had never known. No, I couldn't accept this fate. I had to find a way to completely and utterly destroy my divine reputation. A way to make every single person lose all faith in me. I thought about it for 3 days and 3 nights. And then it came to me, the perfect plan, the ultimate self-destructive, career-ending social suicide. The Vance Holdings 30th Anniversary Gala. It was the event of the season, a glittering affair packed with industry titans, celebrities, and old money socialites. It was also the stage for my spectacular social death. As the man of the hour, the new head of Vance Holdings, I was scheduled to give the keynote address at the height of the evening. Everyone was waiting with bated breath. They wanted to hear my revolutionary business insights, my vision for the future. They wanted me to name the next derp coin that would make them all billionaires. Jonathan and Eleanor were beaming at the head table. Isabel Croft was there, too, stunning in a black evening gown that made her look both dangerous and alluring. She watched me with a curious glint in her eyes. Even Caleb was allowed to attend, though he was seated at a lonely table in the darkest corner of the room, looking like a ghost. Finally, it was my turn. Dressed in a tailored tuxedo, I took a deep breath and walked onto the brightly lit stage. The spotlight hit me, and the entire ballroom fell silent. 1,000 people held their breath, waiting for a proclamation from their god. I looked out at the sea of eager, adoring faces, and I smiled. Goodbye, business messiah. Hello, life of blissful obscurity. I cleared my throat and stepped up to the microphone. Honored guests, friends, good evening. My voice boomed through the hall. Standing here today, I'm overwhelmed with emotion. There's so much I want to say to all of you. I paused for dramatic effect. Then, I reached in my jacket pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. To express my gratitude and to celebrate this wonderful night, I would like to recite a poem for you all. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. A poem? What kind of move was this? Jonathan and Eleanor looked just as baffled. I ignored them. I slowly unfolded the paper, and in the most heartfelt, dramatic, and over-the-top voice I could muster, I began. Oh, Isabel. The first 2 words sent a shock wave through the room. Isabel Croft herself looked like she'd been struck by lightning, nearly dropping her wine glass. I pressed on with my performance. You're like a cloud in the sky, so fluffy and white. I want to be the ground that you walk on, with all of my might. Oh, Isabel, your eyes are like twin supercomputers, calculating my fate. My heart is like a server farm, overheating at a terrible rate. Oh, Isabel, you are the Wi-Fi signal in the desert of my soul. You make my world whole. For you, I would run into a brick wall. The poem was a monstrous creation I had stitched together from the worst, most cringeworthy pickup lines and cheesy rhymes I could find online. It was greasy, awkward, and profoundly stupid. With every line I recited, the silence in the room grew deeper and more horrified. People's expressions shifted from anticipation to shock to catatonic disbelief. Jonathan's face had turned a deep shade of purple. Eleanor had a hand over her heart and looked like she was about to faint. And the subject of my masterpiece, Isabel Croft, had a layer of frost forming on her beautiful face. I could feel the murderous waves rolling off her in the front row. It was perfect. The effect was even better than I'd hoped. An heir who, at the most important corporate event of the year, publicly recites a god-awful love poem to a business partner he barely knows. This wasn't just dumb. This was certifiably insane. My reputation as a business god had to be shattered beyond repair. I finished the last line and took a deep, theatrical bow. Thank you. The room was still as silent as a tomb. I could almost hear the sound of my inheritance being revoked. But then, clap, clap, clap. A slow, steady applause started. It was quiet, but it cut through the silence like a knife. I looked up. The one clapping was Isabel Croft. She slowly rose from her seat. The ice on her face had melted away. In its place was a brilliant, dazzling smile I had never seen before. Still clapping, she walked toward the stage. A beautiful poem. She stopped in front of me, tilting her head up to look me in the eye. Her eyes were actually sparkling. Ethan Vance, I accept. You accept? Accept what? My offer to run into a brick wall for you. I was completely lost. So was every other person in that ballroom. Ignoring the stunned crowd, Isabel took the microphone from the podium. Everyone, if I could have your attention, I'd like to make an announcement. Her voice was clear and firm. Effective immediately, Croft Industries will begin a full, deep, and unconditional strategic merger with Vance Holdings. And I, Isabel Croft, will be entering into a formal relationship with Mr. Ethan Vance, with the intention of marriage. Boom. If my poem was a bomb, her announcement was a nuclear warhead. The ballroom erupted. Oh my God, a merger. The biggest merger in history. What kind of genius move was that? He secured Croft Industries and the Ice Queen herself with a single poem. This man isn't a business prodigy. He's a strategic Casanova. You fools don't get it. This is the art of war. With that seemingly absurd poem, Mr. Vance declared his intentions for Ms. Croft while simultaneously signaling to the world the unbreakable bond between their two companies. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Listening to their insane theories, I felt like my brain was going to leak out of my ears. How are all of your minds wired this way? That poem was so bad, so greasy. Shouldn't a normal person be repulsed? I looked desperately toward my parents. Jonathan and Eleanor had recovered from their shock and were now hugging each other, crying tears of joy. I knew it. I knew Ethan wouldn't let us down. My last hope was Caleb in the corner. He was slumped in his chair, eyes vacant, muttering to himself over and over again. Why? How? With a poem. He won. He had clearly lost his mind. I felt like I was next. After the gala, Isabel invited me into her car. We were alone. Why? I finally managed to ask. Why what? She asked, turning to look at me, a smile still playing on her lips. Why did you accept? And the merger? Isabel laughed. Because you're interesting. She reached out and gently tapped my forehead. From Derp Coin to the Elysium Project to that ridiculous poem tonight. You have a habit of doing the most insane things and achieving the most perfect results. I'm fascinated by you, Ethan Vance. She paused, her gaze deepening. And I despise arranged marriages. My family has been trying to set me up for years. I'd rather choose a genius. I find amusing than be forced to marry some boring idiot. At least with you, life will never be dull. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. So after all my scheming, all my desperate attempts to be seen as a hopeless, pathetic failure, I had not only failed, but I'd managed to get myself engaged and acquired another multi-billion-dollar corporation in the process. My life had officially spiraled into the abyss. 1 year later, Vance Croft Enterprises was officially the largest and most powerful conglomerate on the planet. And I, the emperor of this vast empire, was sitting in my old, tiny studio apartment, wearing pajamas. That's right, I still lived here. It was my last act of defiance. Isabel walked in, holding a steaming cup of ramen noodles. Honey, dinner's ready. She placed the ramen in front of me, then settled comfortably onto my lap and picked up my phone. Oh, you're playing Stardew Valley again. I nodded, my soul completely empty. Just then, the voice of my idiot friend, Kevin, echoed from the doorway. Ms. Croft, you misunderstand. Ethan isn't just playing a game. He's running a macro-level simulation. Kevin strode in, decked out in an Armani suit and slick back hair, his expression deadly serious. By managing a digital farm, he is modeling future global agricultural supply chains against projected climate change data. This is a strategic deep dive to ensure the food security of our empire for the next century. Isabel's eyes widened in understanding. She turned to me, her face glowing with pure admiration. Honey, you're incredible. I stared at the water stains on my ceiling and felt a single, heroic tear roll down my cheek. Somebody please save me. I really just want to be a slacker. Outside my window, a garbage truck rumbled by. A man in a sanitation worker's uniform was struggling to haul a heavy bin. It was Caleb. He happened to look up, his eyes landing on me, with Isabel sitting on my lap inside the apartment. His gaze was hollow, and his lips moved, forming silent words. Why? How can planting digital turnips relate to global food security? And